Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. As always, thank you for watching. So a couple weeks back I had a request for the Budgie Desktop on Gecko Linux. And it just so happens that recently, I think 2 days ago, there was a snapshot release of the rolling version of Gecko Linux. So I want to take a look at this, and it was a perfect opportunity to showcase the Budgie Desktop with Gecko Linux. So let's just pop over to Distro Watch here and you'll see the release. If you go to Distro Watch, as that populates, there we go. So they've announced the release of the new snapshot, and I will go ahead and just let you know that the Gecko Linux ISOs are now hosted on SourceForge, where before they were coming through the OpenSuse. I'm not sure exactly where they were stored within OpenSuse, but at any rate, now everything's migrated over to SourceForge. And if you're interested in trying the Budgie Desktop, it is recommended that you go with the rolling release, because that'll get you the most current version of Budgie Desktop environment, as well as a very current kernel at version 4.8.4. So that's a very current kernel, as well as updated packages. Now, I want to just kind of let you know, I'm not going to go as deep here. I have two other videos with on Gecko Linux with other desktop environments. And so I'm not going to go quite as deep in all the settings and everything. I want to point out a few things about the Budgie Desktop environment, since that's new to this particular video on Gecko Linux. And I do want to talk about some of the advantages of Gecko Linux. So one of the advantages of Gecko Linux is you've got a large selection of desktops to choose from. So everything from Cinnamon, XFCE, all the way down to LXQT and bare bones. And so you've got lots of more options there than just the standard OpenSuse, which Gecko Linux is based off of. The other advantage to Gecko Linux is it's a very small download size, so it's under 1 gig versus the 4.7 gigs of the full-on DVD size that you download for OpenSuse. And I really think that this is going to give people more opportunity, or maybe this would instead of the 4.7 gig download, deter someone, from downloading an ISO that large to try OpenSuse. Let's face it, not everyone has bandwidth in the world. So this might give people an opportunity there who otherwise, just don't have an opportunity or don't have the bandwidth to download something that large. So I applaud the ability of Gecko Linux to come in under a gig. I just think that's awesome. So more people will have an opportunity, I think, to try OpenSuse / Gecko Linux. Maybe that was a long way to say all of that, but anyway. So, and then the other thing that I appreciate is that Gecko Linux has a live installer, meaning you can boot into a live environment and try it and see if it's for you before you actually do the install. Now, I am told that there is a version of the 4.7 gig ISO from OpenSuse that allows you to boot into a live environment. It's just, I need to look into that. So if you've got some info there that you could share in the video comments, that would be great, so that everyone's aware there of what is available. All right, so Gecko Linux, again, it's one of those distributions that I call light as far as the pre-installed software as well. It's not overly loaded with a lot of applications. It's got the basics. So, for mail, you're going to have Thunderbird. You're going to have one browser, which is Firefox. Of course, you can install whatever you want to install. And if you're new to Linux, or if this is your first time, looking at a Linux distribution or a Linux video, there are lots of options in the Linux world. So all of the software that you see here as I'm stepping through can be removed, or you could add to. So here under sound and video, for example, there are many other programs that you can install here besides what you see in the list. So just for people who maybe are brand new to this, Under System Tools, you're going to see a lot of the typical things here with disk and printer settings, HP Device Manager. Love seeing, of course, SUSE Studio Image Writer there. It's great for burning ISOs. Under Utilities, you're going to see a tweak tool. We're going to look at that. Screenshot tool, image viewer. So really everything here that you need for a perfectly capable OS is there, but not too much. So I really like that. That's why I call it, as far as software is concerned, a light distro. Again, it comes in under a gig. All right, so that's the advantages kind of Gecko Linux. Just a quick rundown there again. It's a very light install, fast and easy setup process. And live environment, so you can try it before you install it, and a great choice of desktop environments. Now let's talk about Budgie. So Budgie is a desktop that you would see by default in Solus OS. Now if you're interested in a lot of the details, I'm not going to cover as many details here within Budgie desktop environment. You can check out my Solus OS video, and you'll see there I get into more details. There's also several other fantastic YouTubers that are focused on Linux, and you'll find lots of information there as well. So some of this I'll skim over, and then maybe for other details you can look back at some of my other videos. All right, so one of the shining examples of ingenuity, one of the, I guess, shining stars, I'll say, of Budgie is the Raven panel. Now the Raven panel is activated by clicking on this, left-clicking on this icon that looks like a door with an arrow on it. So once you click that, you'll notice a slide out there, and you see a lot of information here. You've got calendar, volume control, you've got output and input there as well. So you've got just a quick glance at things and some control. But it goes much deeper than that. You see here, that's under applets. And these applets can be, there's some configuration there that you can go in and set up. Again, I'm not going to go as deep here. Then you have notifications. So if you had system notifications, and I believe email, things like that, or a system update, for example, you would see a pop-up notification kind of pop up, fade in, fade out, and then that would go away. But if you come to this particular panel and go to notifications, you'll see that listed there. So for example, if you had a system update, that would still be there, and you'd be able to check that out. So maybe you were in the process of doing something, you saw a pop-up, but you didn't really see it because you were focusing on something else, but you know it's there. You could come back here, and it's going to be here and provide that information for you, and I think that's awesome. So you can also one-click clear those out. All right, and then from there, once we look at notifications here, we're going to go over to what looks like the settings icon. It's a little gear, and you pop into that. Now here's where you start getting into quite a bit of control. So under the General tab, you're going to be able to go in and control much of your appearance. Now the theme you see here is default. I changed the wallpaper, and I moved the panel, this top panel here, I moved it from the bottom to the top. Okay, so the theme and everything is in place. You can go in and change that. That is the Numix theme by default. That's where you get the red highlights and the dark gray or the medium gray background there. And it works extremely well in the Budgie desktop environment. Theming is something there that really is cohesive throughout, and I'll show you an example of that. You've got the Numix icon theme, or excuse me, widget theme by default. And you can go in and adjust all of that from right here in this Raven panel, your font, so on and so forth. The next option that you have here is panel, and that's this bar here at the top. So from here we can move that from, we could add an additional panel. We could move that from the top down to the bottom. All right. We could change the size of the panel, so I could bump that way up. And maybe I'll leave that about there just for video purposes. Toggle the shadow on or off, stylize regions. And then you have these applets here, so you can go in and control that. You could move those applets around, delete those applets, or add additional applets, all from within this panel. So really like it, and again, it gets out of your way when you don't need it. Then from here, you could log out, lock, and then you go into another area of settings from right here. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll launch right there. Now these are settings that are more typical settings, and some of these may be a little redundant. So you have background, tweak tool, which we'll take a quick look at, search. This is where you can go in for things like power, mouse and keyboard, display, sound. So there's a little redundancy here. and then there's Yast. And I'll talk about Yast here in just a moment. All right, so some other things I really like about the Budgie Desktop. Again, clean, modern look, relatively a fast feel to it, relatively easy to configure. Okay, so from here you've got, again, these applets. So this is going to be for, excuse me, let me go back over. This is going to be to lock, suspend, hibernate, restart, or shut down. The Bluetooth control here. And I've got to say, with Budgie Desktop, when you turn Bluetooth off, it remains off until you turn it back on. That's not the case with all distributions or desktop environments. So, so that's nice there. And then simple volume. I have 2 batteries. This is a hybrid system, by the way. It's running 4 gigs of RAM, Core i3 with an SSD drive. So it's not a speed demon, but it's not, you know, a snail either. So, and then your wireless network settings. And all of these applets are done well and function well. So let's move on over here. These icons are easy to place, and this is another feature of Budgie that I really like, is that once you have placed or pinned icons into the panel, you can left click and slide those around anywhere you want without a lot of heavy configuration, meaning you don't have to go in and right click on the panel, then go to some other setting just to get the ability to move these around. So I really like that. Now let's talk about a couple areas where I'm going to get a little nitpicky with Budgie. And I'm not going to come down on anyone hard here. This is just me being a little nitpicky. You know, these developers work extremely hard to offer us fantastic options in our operating system, and so it's hard for me to come down on somebody who's doing all the work when I'm just doing videos and talking about it, quite frankly. So, but this is an area, again, I think it's just room for improvement, and I think it's fine to always talk about room for improvement. To me, that's positive. So here, I would love the ability, and again, it's modern looking, okay? Easy to navigate. You've got quick search here, and then when you go over, you see from the theming the different highlights. That looks great. It looks modern. You know, everything's categorized. I appreciate that the categories are on the left. What I would like to see is the ability to control the, like, click and drag and control the size of the menu panel or menu drop down. I would like to maybe, you know, slide that over and make that a little more narrow, make it a little longer. But there's really nothing you can do there. You scroll, and granted, scrolling is not difficult. So you're not burning a lot of calories in scrolling. So it works. It's just, again, I'm being nitpicky. I'd also like to see maybe the ability to log out and shut down and restart here at the bottom of the menu panel. If I'm here already and I decide it's time to shut down, it would be nice, I think, to have that there. All right, so that's one area I'm going to nitpick a little bit. Now, I want to point out something else here. You've got Nautilus Action Configuration Tool. So this is a tool that gives you the ability to go in within Budgie and set up various commands and executions and things like that for the Nautilus File Manager. And this is an area where I've had a problem here. I'm not quite sure what's going on, but if you'll notice my spinning icon, it's for whatever reason taking some time to load into the File Manager. Now, I'm not sure what's up there. I can't think of any settings or anything that I have changed to cause this to happen. All right, now we're in, and we could actually go in and use the File Manager. So could be something I did weird on the install. The install was flawless. I mean, it was fast and flawless. So I mention that because if you're going to try this and you have the same experience, please share that in the comments of the video, because that's going to help me and others, and certainly the person who creates Gecko Linux. It'd be good for them to know about it. All right, so for the most part, this is a perfectly fine file manager. It's, again, clean and modern looking, and here's part of the theming. You notice here when you open up a window, it combines with the panel, and it creates a really nice clean look, I think. That's an example of a small detail in the theming and why I think theming is done better within Budgie than it is with some other desktop environments. Now, here you've got some options. This is the icon view. You've got 2 options. You've got what I'll call the list view and then icon view. So it doesn't have a third option for that compact view. I would like to see that. And then if you go over to what should be more of a preferences panel, there's really no preferences in here. So I would love the ability to go in. Now, maybe I'm totally missing something here. But I'd love the ability to go in and say have an option for single click to open and an option for direct delete as opposed to move to trash. That would be great. Now here you can go in and you can set up some sorting, show hidden files, reload. You can change the size of the icons. And they're attractive icons, by the way. And you can also create a folder from here. You can bookmark or add a favorite to a location. So if we were, let's say we created a new folder, we could then go in and add that to favorites and it would show up down here. Well, you can see wallpapers, for example. That's one I added. And then from here you can also add a new tab. Now I really like that setup with tabs. That allows you to interact with two different folders for copy, paste, that kind of thing. Now you've got most of what you need here under right click, so you can go to open a new tab, cut, copy, move to, so on and so forth, move to trash, rename. Again, everything's here. There's just a few things that I would go in and add and make available as options that I think would really bring this up to the level that I would like to see. I'll just leave it at that. So that's about all I'm going to cover there with the Budgie Desktop environment. I want to talk a little about some of the things that are the base of Gecko Linux from the OpenSuse side. And one of those is the standout feature called Yast. And let's type our password in. And Yast is one of those things that was pioneered by OpenSuse early on, and now you see control centers through many, many distributions. Yast was one of those first to kind of bring in a lot of your system, software, hardware, security, all of those settings together into one place, similar to what you would see in the control menus or control, I'm drawing a blank, for the control settings inside of Windows. And so again, it puts a lot of powerful control here. So kernel settings, network settings, partitioning, some of this stuff, you know, if you're just a typical desktop user, some of this stuff you may never even touch, may never even launch into. But if you get into networking and things like that, there's a lot of control here, and that stems from the enterprise side of SUSE Linux. And so part of that, too, is what makes this such a stable system. You've got a lot of that technology which is rolled over into OpenSuse. And because of that, I think it makes for a really, really stable, rock-solid base of an OS. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention here about the OpenSuse side of things is this is also where you'll go to control your updates as well as your software management. Now, if you're new to Linux, this may not be the first distribution you want to try. There are other distributions out there that put things, that list things in a way that makes it easier for you, a first-time user. And one of those things is like an App Center or App Store that you may be familiar with in Android. And that's where under Yast it may be a little more difficult for you to actually find the software you're looking for and that kind of thing. Now, if you've been around Linux and you know what you're doing, this is perfectly capable in many, many ways. It allows you to go in and you can search under description and summary, keywords, and that kind of thing to find the software that you're looking for. I'm going to do simple screen recorder, for example, and you'd hit enter. And you see there I've already installed that. That's what I'm recording this with. And so you're going to get a list here as opposed to what you would find, you know, if you're a new user to Linux and maybe you're running Ubuntu or Elementary or something like that. You've got an App Center which categorizes everything and gives you a description of everything, and you're really not going to find that here. Not out of the box. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Yast is very, very capable in what it does. It's a rock solid control center, and I guess I would call it one of the shining stars of the base of Gecko Linux, which is OpenSuse. So, all right, I want to sum this one up by saying I think the Budgie Desktop, if you're a fan of Budgie, then I think this is a good combination for you. I don't know that you would be lacking or missing anything, and maybe you have thought about trying OpenSuse before and you were you were not ready to download 4.7 gigs and do an install out of the gate, then Gecko Linux would certainly be an option for you, and it gives you an opportunity to try multiple desktop environments. So hope this helps, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. If so, please subscribe and share it. Let your friends know about this community, especially if you've got someone who is, maybe you're a Linux user and you've talked to a friend about Linux and they're not really sure, then let them know about our channel, and there's many other good channels out there too. So we like to share all of this information. The more people we have using Linux, the better. The larger we can get the community, the better. That allows more people to support the developers. That allows people who make games to start looking at numbers and say, wow, the user base for Linux has really increased. Maybe we need to start spending more of our time developing for Linux. So all of that's a good thing. So anyway, I'll quit ranting there, and we will check you later.